Hey guys, welcome back, and I figured it would be a good idea to do a short little video on muzzle brakes, especially when it comes to running them on Bullpups. If you have shot a 308, it's always more fun to shoot one with a brake on than with not, although everyone near you is going to hate you. That said, sometimes shooting a 308 brake on a gun that's too short for that brake is also not very fun for the person shooting the gun. When I was first introduced to what muzzle brakes could do and how effective they were, I came across the muzzle brake shootout test. And that was a great piece of testing, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. They did a very extensive 5.56 testing and a decent sampling of 308 brakes. I can understand when it comes to using a brake on a 5.56 that it reduces recoil quite a bit. But to be fair, you know, most 5.56 rifles don't have a whole lot of recoil to begin with. So when you have numbers of 70, 80, 90% reduction on a 5.56, that just kind of makes me go, most 5.56 ARs, if you're shooting 55 grain or a little heavier, is about 3 pounds of rearward recoil force. The heavier 308s come around at like 15 to 18 pounds of rearward force. That said, when I was looking at the muzzle brake shootout test, I did notice that when he had the same brakes that he was testing in 5.56 and in 308, for example, like the Strike Industries King Comp here, it tended to be about 10% less effective in 308 than it was in 5.56. So from that video, I chose to purchase the M4 72 Extreme Duty Compensator. On the Tester's rifle and even on my Bullpups, it certainly did its job. But then that's where I learned the major downside when it comes to using a brake and brakes styled like this on Bullpups. The best way I can describe it is getting hit in the face with a warm pillow. You know, that's sort of that feeling you get when you open a hot oven and that heat comes rushing at you. That's the cost of the increased muzzle blast and the felt concussion that the shooter is feeling. And this can be really jarring and disconcerting. In my experience, there's two main styles of brakes / compensators. And I'm choosing to deliberately ignore linear comps and blast cans because they do the same thing and are slightly more effective than, say, an A2 flash hider. And that's going to be side vented brakes and rear vented brakes. See how these baffles on this, or the ports on this, are angled to back towards the shooter. So those are the two kinds that I'm really talking about today. So when shopping for a brake for your rifle, it's kind of important to know which type of brake or compensator you're looking for, especially in a Bullpup. Some manufacturers are nice enough to include a minimum barrel length for their brakes, and that's really good news. But that information is also based on standard configuration rifles. So, when you're looking at a Bullpup, for example, there we go. See how much longer this gun is compared to my Bullpup here? I mean, this is an 18-inch barrel with a 3-inch brake, and this is a 16-inch barrel with a 1-inch brake. There's an additional 14 inches of receiver and stock between you and the end of the barrel. So that'll be the key difference when it comes to looking for a muzzle device on a Bullpup versus a standard configuration rifle. Whereas on a Bullpup, your face is about 2 inches from the chamber of the barrel. Between the first chamber of the muzzle brake and my face. That's not a really long distance. Whereas on a standard configuration rifle, you know, your face is a long way from the end of that first chamber. I mean, that's quite a bit. I mean, we're going from here to there. So maybe you're like me and you bought one of these and now you're doomed. I'm doomed. So my recommendation, if you're a little bit concussion sensitive, I recommend not putting them on a Bullpup just because you're really close to that first chamber of the break, and you will definitely feel some concussive forces. If you decide you want something like this to equal a 14.5-inch barrel on an AR, you'll want a barrel that's at least 24 inches. So I know they don't make something that long for the MDR because I think their maximum is 20 inches, but on the RFB, there are 24-inch variants of this gun, and that's actually where I think that a break like that would be at home. Should you opt to do neither, just make sure you double up on your hearing protection and have fun shooting.